Hey guys, welcome back. Okay, I'm expecting this to be a fairly quick episode. We got a bunch of stuff to do, but it's all fairly short, each individual step. So yeah, let's just get to it. So here's our scene. Just a real quick scene. Yeah, okay. I just realized I kind of meant to do a little bit better of a map, but okay, well, I'll do that later. I'll show you guys how we're gonna do this, and then I'll redo it. Okay, guys. The first thing I want to do, if we run this, you remember we get some numbers up here, or we're looking at 100 and, well, let's see if I can get a, okay, we're getting 126 frames per second off of my counter, which is not accurate because it's, it's not accounting for the editor being running. And then we get 200 frames per second in their counter, which tries to account for the editor running, but it really doesn't. I don't really trust either one of those. What you can trust is this one right here. If we build and run, and let the game run outside the editor, it'll take a minute. And also this runs in the resolution that is set to my monitor, so that's, that's accurate. 235, 240 frames per second is what we're getting right now. Okay. Unfortunately, I have no way of shutting that down. I gotta add a key command to exit the game when you're in full mode like that. So the first thing I want to do, guys, is pull up the profiler, and as I said before in the prior video, we've got all these particle calls, 1550 particle calls right now, coming from 300 and I think it's 310 torches or something like that. Okay. Let's see if I can. Don't have a whole lot of screen real estate here. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to go to one of these torches while the game's running. And I'm going to go to, say, one of the, like, smoke. No, not this one, because that one's active, actually. Let's just do one of these down here. Smoke. This is not active. Okay, the emitter's off. So watch this number 1550. Now let's see how we can get this number to be affected, right? If I turn that off, does that help? No, that doesn't help. If I turn the smoke off altogether, that helps. Okay, that actually dropped our number down. Okay. The renderer, no. So really, you gotta basically turn off the entire system. Okay. Okay, that's good to know. So let's think about this, guys. Let's head into our script. Now, I've already played around with the sum, guys. So, I have some of this code already written, but I'll show you what I did, or what I'm going to do here. Okay, so, just in the interest of showing you how this works, I'll rewrite this function. So I want a function that kills particle systems, right? So we're going to call it kill particle system. And you need the system, so which is a game object, so system. And you want to do it at some particular time, okay? And because this function is going to be we're gonna call it, but then we don't want it to execute right away. So it's gonna have a wait period, right? So because of that, functions with wait periods have this IEnumerator return value. Okay. So that's what that means. It just means this function is going to it's going to have some command inside of it which tells it to wait, and that's what that IEnumerator does for you. Okay. So yeah, let's set that up. So the way to do that is with the yield command, and you just do a return new wait for seconds, and then we'll do time. What that does is this function gets called, and then it sits there for some amount of time before it moves on. That's basically what we're doing. So we're going to give it a delay time, and I'll show you why in a minute. So at the end of that delay, we're going to say system dot active, no, set active, set active false. So we're just going to turn it off. Okay. So when this is called, we're going to feed it some kind of system, and we're going to feed it a time. It's going to wait for that amount of time, and it's going to turn off that system. That's what that's doing. Okay. So that's this function that I wrote down here. All right. Okay. So now we want to call that. Well, how do we do that? So once we hit this emit false, we don't want to turn off the system right away. Remember, we did try that at one point, and what happened was the entire thing just disappeared. It's rather, what we want it to happen is for all the active particles that are on the screen to live their life and die before we turn the system off. Now, it turns out that the max energy value that we have in here, if we look at, say for instance, the smoke, and we go to the emitter, this max energy right here, this is in seconds. Okay, this is how long the particles live. Okay, in this case, the 1.5 seconds, or somewhere between 0.8 and 1.5 seconds. Okay, it's a random value. So we're going to take the max energy, so that's the point at which they could live the longest, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to assume that as soon as we hit this, a particle was just emitted, and it has a maximum energy value. So right at the point where this turned off, right, we just turned off the emitter, but just before that, the emitter produced a particle, and that particle happened to be the max energy, 1.5 seconds in the case of the smoke. So so yeah, if we set that this time equal to, when we call this routine, 1.5 seconds for the case of the smoke, what'll happen is it'll call this function, it'll sit here and wait for 1.5 seconds, which means even if that particle had just been created for the maximum amount of time, it will have died by the time it hits this function, and then we just turn it off. Okay. So that's what we're after here. Now, you guys might remember there was the invoke command, invoke, and we could invoke a method name rather than use this start coroutine function. They do similar things. Now, the reason we can't just call this kill particle system directly is because it does have this yield return thing. You can't just call these. You got to do an invoke or a start coroutine, something like that. Okay. The problem with invoke is that you can't. There's no parameters. So what we need is a start coroutine. So we're going to start coroutine, which means basically what that means is start this in a different thread. So the game will still run while this thing is kind of locked in here, but it'll be on a different thread. So it doesn't, the game keeps going, but this thing's sitting here just waiting, right? So that's the function we want to call, kill particle system. The sparks game object. Okay. And then the sparks max energy, and that will turn off sparks at the end of all the particle system's lives. And then when we turn it back on, of course we have to set active back to true again. So let's take a quick look at that, just with that one function change, and see what that does for us. So let's bring up the profiler again. Okay, oh yeah, one thing I should say before that's going to work, we're going to have to go into our prefabs and to our decor and our torch, and we're going to have to go to, well, we did sparks, and we're going to have to actually by default turn this off. Okay, remember, until you hit the trigger, it's not going to be affected. So if it's on by default, anything that you haven't hit the trigger yet is going to be on. So we're going to turn them off to start with. Let's go ahead and run that. And I'll move this profiler over here. Now let's take a look. Already we're down to 1,200 calls. Okay, we're definitely better. Now if we look, the sparks are still going. No problem there. If I back off to where they disappear, you can kind of see, I don't know, the sparks is kind of difficult. It's actually the smoke that's the better example. But anyway, so far, all the way down to 1,200 calls. Okay, so pretty good. All right, let's just go ahead, and that's the idea. Everything else is exactly the same. So I'll just uncomment all these out. Now the fire, of course, there's two of them. There's fire left and fire right, but it's the same idea. So there you go. So everything's set. Go back into here. Now we gotta, again, turn all these off by default. So that's 4. What's the other one? Glow. So there you go. That should be all 5, right? That should be all 5 that I did. 1, 2, there's 2 fires. 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's all good. Okay, let's go ahead and run that. And again, I'll move the profiler over here. Now look at this, particle update, 39. That's a whole lot better than, you know, what we had before, which was over 1,500. And our overhead, look at this, is now 4.4%, something like that. We were at 25% before, so not too shabby. Okay, we've just dropped our overhead quite a lot, and everything still works. So if you look at the smoke, let's see, or the of course we've got it set up so that you can't see the disappearing thing, so it's hard to tell. It's totally on purpose. But let's see if we can figure it out. Let me grab the torch, and what did we set the smoke to? 2,000. Okay. Now, hang on. Let me grab that torch. There we go. So let's see if we can see this. It might be kind of difficult because, again, we deliberately set these up so that you can't see the change. But we'll go back to 2,000. Try to keep an eye on the smoke. Let's see, where are we at here? We're already past 2,000. Okay, right there. So the smoke's going. So if I back up just a little bit, not yet, watch the smoke, and it should allow the particles to live their life and die before it turns off. Right there. And I think it did. So they're on, and they turn off. But they die out. Okay? Which is what we want. And we don't have that extra overhead. So let's go ahead and remember we were at what, about 230 before. So let's go ahead and build and run and see if that made any difference to our frame rate. I think we were at 230, 235 to 240 is what we were. Let's see what it does now. It's going down. Oh, why is it going down? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, it's bouncing around. It's around 200. I can't think of any reason why it would go down, other than, well, okay, I moved just a little bit, and now we're back up to 230. So it really doesn't have any effect, honestly, to be entirely honest. Now let's go back to 2000 and see if we can see where that smoke fades off. We do have the working lights on at this point. I don't know. Where's it at? I can't remember. I can't see where it's at. There it is. Yep, there you go. So the smoke's on. Smoke shuts off. Looks good. You're looking at 300 frames per second right here. About 300 right here. So it's, I mean, it's good. You know, nothing wrong with that. Okay, let's kill that. Okay, guys. That was kind of the harder of the bunch, really. The second thing I want to do is deal with this bit. Look at that draw distance. That's ridiculous. Okay, there is no reason for that. So here, hang on a second. What I want to do here is wow, okay. I guess we want to keep hold of this. Let's grab this torch. Now the maximum distance that we've got set on this torch is 9,500, okay? So let's get a distance of 9,500. What I want here is to get to a distance away from the torch that you can't see that torch anymore, because that's going to be the point at which everything turns black anyway, right? So right now we're at 4,000, 7,000, 8,000, what did I say, 95? Right about there, okay? Right there, you really shouldn't be able to see. Now, okay, you can because I've got the working lights on. Yeah, maybe I should turn those off, just so this doesn't get confusing. This is working lights. Let's turn off the working lights. Alright, let's try that one more time. In the dungeon, as it's set up, and I didn't grab the torch. Of course I didn't. Give me the torch. Sorry, guys. Too many things to remember to do. Okay, let's go down here so I can see the distance. So let's just back off to where we're at the point where we can no longer see the torch, and that's going to be at 9,500. That's where everything's shut off, and the lights have already been dimmed all the way to 0. So we're at 5,000. You can see it's already completely gone except for the flame. So right about there. Okay. All right. Let's see if I can get a view of that. I'm going to switch over to the scene mode right now. Okay. So this is our world. Let's grab our camera. All right. There you go. That's what I want. Now look at this. Let's turn on the working light real fast so I can see what I'm doing. That's ridiculous. Okay, I can no longer see this end of the corridor. The lights have all gone off, And yet, look at how far out this draw distance is. That's insane, right? So let's fix that. There's no reason to be drawing out that far. Let's pull the clipping plane into, say, 500. In fact, I can just drop it back. Whoop. That's not what I wanted. I thought I could just drop it back, but maybe I cannot. I don't want to mess with the... no, I don't want to mess with the view settings, field of view. So I guess we just have to do it this way. Let's go like 250. And even that's too far, right? Let's try 150. It's getting closer. Let's try 100. Alright, that may be... That's close. Let's try 125. That's just a little bit, just a little further out than the furthest we can see. Okay, so 125. Now when I turn this off, it's going to reset itself. Okay, that's okay. We got the number. So I'm going to set this to 125. So if I run this, guys, nothing's changed. It's all exactly the same, right? But the actual far clipping plane is a lot closer to us, and that means less stuff is getting drawn. So if I back off to whatever the distance is, ultimately that flame will go out right there. And somewhere right in here, the clipping plane is actually hitting the walls, but you can't see it, right? Everything back there is in darkness anyway, and that's the way we've got it set up. So it's good. Now let's see what that does for us. I'm going to hit run. I'm not going to touch the keyboard or anything. And look at the frame rate. 270 about on my counter, 600 on their counter. That's a good sign, right? Let's save the scene. Let's go ahead and run that and see what we get. Play. There you go, guys. Look at that. Close to 400 frames per second. 300 dynamic lights in the scene, and we've been close to 400 frames per second. Not too shabby, gang. Not too shabby at all. I mean, you can't argue with that. Getting some noise in my headphones. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Not the torch noise, but some other electronic humming. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. Anyway, let's close that. Okay, one more fix that I want to make. And I don't, again, know if this is going to have any real effect on what we're doing or not. We'll see. Yeah. Okay. I did something kind of bad, and I knew it was bad when I did it. I wasn't unaware. But I figured, well, this is just a sandbox. We're just getting a rough idea. It doesn't really matter. Actually, it kind of does matter, because we're trying to get representative values for our frame rates and make sure everything's okay. So I really should fix it. It's something that can be optimized out pretty easily. I'm going to go ahead and put in a floor here so that we get all the floor meshes. Look at the scale on these guys. 100 by 100 by 100. I brought them in at a scale of 100 by 100 by 100. I'm going to take all these guys and I'm going to put that to 1 by 1 by 1. Okay. The engine does not handle scaling very well. Okay, it handles it fine, but it causes slowdowns. It's difficult for the engine to handle scale. Now we had what's called oh god, I'm blanking on the word, but it scaled up all three at the same time, the same amount. So that's less bad, but it's still not good. So let's go into our meshes and go to the floor mesh, and I'm going to scale him here in the import by 100, and we're going to apply that. And what that does is it takes the scaling from the run into from runtime into design time. So it's scaling it, but it's scaling it as it's coming in. Okay, so so we no longer have to worry about this thing being scaled weird, right? Okay, the archways are already at the right size. The boxes, torches, also scaled to 100. So I'm going to put in a torch filter. I'm going to select all of them. Hang on a second. Oh, it's unhappy because it's too many things I'm trying to grab. Okay, these torch LODs. Oh, it's grabbing the children. I don't want the children. Okay, I might need to fix those a little more manually, guys. I'm not going to sit here and make you watch me do it. Unfortunately, it's picking up these LODs in the search. I didn't think it would do that. I was wanting it just to pick up the parents. I'll try to figure out a better way of doing that. I'm not sure there's any way for me to sort these. No. Okay, well, I'll work on it. All right, I'll fix that later. Let's go ahead and run this. I'm just curious to see if the changing scale just made me fall through the world. Super awesome. Okay, guys. So that's what the floors scaling changed. Now, I don't know if that's going to make a whole lot of difference, and also I'm still scaling the torches. I'm going to have to go ahead and fix that. I don't think anything else is being scaled. I think everything else was set correctly. Let me just double check on some of that. The archways are fine. The corridors are fine. That's the floor. This archway's fine. So yeah, I think everything else, the box, it's just the torches, really. I got to go through and fix all those torches. But otherwise, it looks good. So, again, I don't know if that makes any difference, but it's good not to scale your stuff, even if it's uniform scaling. Like that's the word I was looking for, uniform scaling. This is uniformly scaled, and that's the best kind of scaling to do, but if you're going to do scaling at all. But it's best really to have these set to 1. So I'll go through and fix those. Okay, so that's it for the optimizations, guys. That's all I really wanted to talk about for optimizations. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. So let's start talking about the camera and the maps, and not the camera, the overhead mapping system, the maps. Starting to get ahead of myself again. So what I want to do here, guys, is I've got the overhead lights on. That's fine. We're going to keep those on. What I'm going to do is, for just right now, I'm going to take this canvas, and I'm going to turn him off. And then I'm going to get right up above my world, get it as straight as I can, and kind of frame it in the scene. Actually, let's get an isometric view. There you go, that's better. Alright, that probably will work, if that's going to be our world, right? What I'm going to do, gang, is I'm going to take a screenshot of that. So I'm just going to hit the print screen button on my keyboard. And what I'm going to do is show you how I have kind of done maps. Just kind of a real quick, easy way to do it. Now, this isn't very much of a map, right? We just got these kind of pseudo rooms, and we got a corridor. I'll draw a better map and do this, but I want to show you how I basically how I'm going to do this. So what I'm going to do, gang, is come into, let's pull up Photoshop. Real quick, easy way to do maps. And we're going to go new, and I'm just going to do a clipboard. And it's going to pick up my second monitor, but that's fine. So this is the screenshot that we took. Now I'm going to take the, it's already selected, the, whatever you call that thing. I'm not quite sure what that is, the crop tool. There we go. And I'm going to crop right up against our map. Now again, this isn't a very interesting map, but assuming that, you know, your world is done and you have the map that you want. And I'm just going to pop in like such. Okay, then we can go, should be able to go 100%. And we could even try to clean it up a little bit. Yeah, it's not that necessary. Okay. Okay, so there you go. You got an overhead view of your map. Now you could just use this as your map, right? I mean, there's nothing particularly wrong with that. But there's actually some stuff that I like to do to make this a little more interesting. First off, okay, what I'm going to do is apply some filters to this. So let's go to sharpen. Let's see, I got to find these. Because I can never remember where they are. Where are you? There it is. Under Stylize. Find Edges. So I'm going to do a Find Edge. And there you go. That's actually kind of already a much nicer looking map, in my opinion, than what we had before. Now again, not the most interesting of maps right now, but it's a start, right? So what I'm going to do is, I mean, you can play with all these filters and get like the effect that you want, but I'm going to go ahead and sharpen these edges, sharpen more. So it's a little, what the effect that I'm kind of going after here is kind of old school, like graph paper almost, except without the grids, kind of an effect. So, and then we can go into here to, I think it's under Sketch Photocopy. And there you go. That gives you kind of a, like a hand-drawn almost kind of deal. And then hit OK, yeah. And then I'm going to go one more filter. If I can figure out where it is. I can never figure this stuff out. I'm looking for poster edge. And I thought it was under Sketch. Now I don't see it. Ah, under Artistic, of course. Why didn't I think of that in the first place? Okay. And there you go. That kind of darkens it up and blurs it a little bit. So it gives you kind of a thick line. Now you got these extra lines. Now you can come in here and clean this up manually, like fix some of this stuff if you want to. These lines are actually coming from, I think, the light gradient. Take all this stuff out. And there you go. So there you go, guys. Real quick, easy way to do a map. And you can play with the filters and do whatever you want with them. This is just one effect that I kind of like. So I'm going to save this. Here, actually, let's flatten that out, and then we'll save it. So I'll just put it in design. We'll go sample map 1, And there you go. Quick way to do a map. So we'll close that. Head back into Unity. Okay, let's go back to a perspective map and drop back into where we were. Okay, guys. Let's start setting up our camera for the map system. And what we'll do is we'll get the mini map going. By the time we're done with this, we'll have at least a crude mini map sitting here. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a game object, and I'm going to create a camera. So now we have a second camera in the world. Let's put him kind of, I want him above the world. And he's facing the wrong way. I'm going to spin him around 180 degrees so he's facing backward. And I'm also going to drop his far flip plane down to like something really low, like 100. Okay, so we got our camera. I'm going to take out all these components. We don't need a GUI layer. We definitely don't want an audio listener. We can only have one audio listener in the scene. So if you have two, that's going to really mess things up. Everything else is good. I can change this later. We ultimately want to change this to ortho, but I'll change it in a minute. Let's see what happens if we run this. I'm not quite entirely sure what's going to happen, actually. It doesn't look any different. Okay. I'm going to set the depth of this camera to 1. Now, we have 2 cameras in the scene, guys. So how does that work when we're dealing with the screen? Well, it works by the depth. So things with a higher depth get drawn in front. Things with a lower depth get drawn in back. So right now, we're seeing the second camera because I just set the depth to 1. And the first camera, depth is at 0. There's 0 by default. If we go to the controller and we go to the actual camera, you'll see his depth is at 0. Okay. So he's in front, and that's where we want him. But, of course, he's taking up the entire screen. We got a NOLA reference object. What is this? What is this coming from? Okay, I don't know what that is. I'll deal with that later. Not interested right now. Give me back Unity. Okay. So yeah, we've now covered up our entire screen, and that's not at all what we want. So, but that's no problem. Let's just go into a game view. Where do we want this? Maybe we'll put this in the, I don't know, the lower... maybe the lower right corner. So I'm going to put a height of 0.3 with a starting Y of 0.1, 0.305, 02, something like that. So we're going to do an X of 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, something like that, with a W of 0.98. No, 0.3? Oh yeah, okay, 0.2. Okay, does that look a little big? Maybe a little big, but let's go with it. Let's check it out. There you go, guys. We have a little camera at the bottom. Very nice. Okay. Let's go back to our scene mode. Okay. Guys. I want to point that camera at something. So let's create a game object and create a 3-dimensional object. We'll create a we could create a plane. Yeah, I guess we could. Let's put up a plane. No, I don't like it. I don't like it. No, sir, I don't like it. I'm going to create a box, a cube. Okay, and I'm going to set his... Now, we got to scale this one. There's no getting around this. Let's see, 50 height, Z of 0.1. Just something, you know. Something square. Okay. Now I'm going to take... Hang on just a second. I'm going to grab the texture that we just made, which is sample map 1. And I'm going to pull him in here. Okay. There he is. And I'm going to make him a texture. And we'll clamp and we'll make him bilinear. That's fine. We do not need to worry about NCO because we're going to be looking straight up. We'll leave his alpha alone. All looks good. Let's apply that. And there you go. Now if I just grab this texture and I drop him on top of this thing, what it's going to do is it's going to create an automatic material for us. So you see we've got a material, sample map 1. I'm just going to drag this sample into here so we can get rid of this material. I don't like having 17 million material folders. Okay. And then I'm going to change the name of this. I'm going to call it a map material. Okay, you see it's created a standard kind of material for us. I'm going to change this to UI unlit. I think I want detail. There you go. So there you go. We've got our kind of map sitting here. Okay, let's take a look at the game world. Look at there, you can almost see it. Okay, oops, I didn't mean to hit the run button. Don't need that. Alright, let's look at our map camera. Now, I'm going to put him over here, and I'm going to change this camera from perspective to orthographic. Okay. So you see that our view volume is now straight. Okay, that's what we're looking at. All right. That's 10. Let's increase his size a little bit. 100 is too high. I think I can just drag, yeah. So let's just drag this down until we get right up on this map. There we go. Now, okay guys, this is not really going to work as a mini-map as far as that goes. But I mean, you know, you can see it's starting to take on the aspects that we're after. I mean, it's not moving around or anything, but it shows the map, you know, so very nice. It's a start. Okay. All right, guys, we're getting close to done here. There's one more thing I want to talk about. Let's see if we can see it actually in action. Oh, we can't because I turned off my my canvas. Let's turn our canvas back on. Let's see what it says. Okay, 100 frames a second. And look at our statistics. 170, 180 frames a second. What happened? I mean, we were sitting at 300. Well, the problem is we now have two cameras in the scene, and they're rendering all this stuff. Okay, even the second camera's pointing at this thing, and it shouldn't be having too much of an effect. Here, let's change this name to map camera. If I turn this guy off, we should end up still running low. Oh, because the light's on. Okay, hang on a second. Let's turn off the working lights and see if that brings us back up. Maybe that was our problem all along. A little bit, but not much. Okay, well again, this isn't that accurate. Okay, so with the camera on, because this camera is actually turned away from the scene and it's just showing this one box, it's not really having an effect on our frame rate. But the thing is, it could. Okay, if the camera could see the world, it would have to render it, right? And we don't want the cameras rendering each other. Okay, let's turn that working light back on. So we're going to fix that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go down to layers. And I'm going to add a new layer. Okay. And these are just basically names, right? And the name I'm going to add is map layer. Okay. So, and I'm going to take this box and I'm going to put them in the map layer. And I'm also going to take the map camera and I'm going to put them in the map layer. And while I'm at it, guys, I'm going to take the UI components and I'm going to put them in UI. And yes, I'm going to change all the children. So this should all be UI layer. Okay, everybody else is the default layer. So what does that do for us? Well, let's go to this camera and let's look at his culling mask. He's currently set to everything. I'm going to set him to nothing. And then I'm going to turn on just the map layer. Okay, so the only thing this camera can draw is the map. Okay, similarly, everything else it's going to ignore. Similarly, let's go to the other camera, and he's currently set to everything, and that's fine, but I'm going to turn off the map layer in his case. So let's run that. So you can see if I walk out here, you can't see that map. It is right there, but you can't see it because he's not going to draw it. So that's working fine. I wonder if I can do this. I'm going to try turning off the UI layer as well. Although I wonder if that's going to mess us up. Oh no, that works fine. That works fine. That just prevents that big UI box from drawing. Just in case you might be able to see those texts above the world. So actually, yeah, we could do that on the map camera as well. So that's going to prevent. No, actually, he's just set to the map layer anyway. So yeah, guys, actually, if I took that camera and I spun him back around this way, and we ran that, look, you can't see anything in this map view, even though the camera is clearly sitting. He might be a little bit high. No, he's sitting on top of it. He would normally be able to see this corridor and possibly the stuff behind it, but he can't because we've turned it off. So there you go. So that prevents any potential frame rate losses being caused by the camera's double rendering. You don't want to double render. Okay, rendering takes the longest amount of time of anything that you do. Okay, pretty much. Maybe some other stuff comes close, but you really definitely, if you have more than one camera, you want to be careful about what they're rendering. So there you go. So yeah, guys, there's the beginning of our little mini map. So very nice. We have a start. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop here, and we'll pick this up in the next one. So in the next one, I'm not 100% sure what we're doing yet. We might be working on the alpha maps. I might try to do a shader to kind of fix the roundness, and we might work on refining that map a little bit, the mini map. I am going to redo this map. This is not really what I wanted to end up with, so that we actually have something that we can look at, a little more interesting than, you know, what we've got here. This kind of stuff is maybe not quite that interesting. Might throw in just a couple of rooms real quick and draw a map of them. So the next time you come in, this map might be changed somewhat, hopefully. So yeah, we'll pick that up there. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks a lot.